Alrighty, we are live. Hey guys, thanks for tuning in today and welcome to our third Anime Legend podcast with your host here, Chris, Andrew, Bally Senpai, Sinclair, and our guest, Sinclair, Tia. Say hi, Tia.
Hello, guys.
All right. We have a podcast here every week at 8:30 p.m. We have a podcast here every week at 8:30 p.m. We are simultaneously on our Anime every week group and on our official Anime Legends YouTube channel, where the link to both will be in the description of wherever you're watching. We have a podcast every week subscribe to our and on our official Anime Legends YouTube channel. Also, don't forget to check out our website, animelegend.org, where we have many up-and-coming, hard-working writers bringing you news, updates, reviews, and more. Last week was our second podcast, and we got a lot of positive feedback once again, and we'll continue doing this because we love it. The podcast we will be This podcast we'll be talking about a different variety of topics, including our top 10 list that we just introduced last week, some news and discussions talking about the different episodes past weeks, and we'll have again, as always, a Q&A at the end for everybody listening. Our first topic of the season, of tonight, this evening, we'll be talking about. Well, first we'll be introducing our guest that we have here. Her name is Tia. She is part of the ATA group, all things anime and manga, and that is the group that Isaiah here currently is the admin of, the owner of, and she's close friends with him. So, Isaiah, if you want to introduce her.
Alright, well, this is my friend Tia, and she has seen a lot of anime. She's actually one of the most, respected members inside my group, and, she's definitely up there. Some people even claim that she's the new Folly, that she's our new overlord, and it's only because she's seen so much anime. I've only seen about 2,000, but she has seen, probably more than, definitely more than me, of course. And her favorite anime is Galaxy Express. But I don't want to introduce her as a whole. I want her to do that herself because she'll definitely say other things apart from what I'm saying. So.
Well, I think I haven't watched as much anime as you. I think it's about the same, Folly. So, yeah. As Folly said, I'm a member of ATA, and it's just a really awesome group with amazing people. And if you ever have the time, maybe just ask to join and see what's up. You guys basically took what I wanted to say about myself, so.
Oh, sorry.
Way to go, Folly.
Sorry.
I've checked in on the group. It looks fun.
Tell us about maybe some of your favorite, or let's say your top anime and your top manga that you've read recently or whenever, and tell us a little bit about your what you enjoy to watch and stuff.
Oh, well, for this season's anime, I've actually just caught up with Orange and ReZero. I believe they're a really good anime, especially Orange. That last episode just caught my heartstrings. Oh, I almost cried.
Yeah. Oh, I did
really good episode.
Yeah, we're on board.
Yep, and for manga as of late, I've been actually getting more into Chinese manga and stuff, with wuxia, manga, so martial arts and stuff, fantasy. Yeah, they update weekly, so one I would suggest would be Soul Land. It's one of the first Chinese manga I've ever read, so I highly recommend it when you get, if you ever have the time to check it out and stuff.
But what's it about?
Well, it's about this boy who, he's a martial artist, and he gets reincarnated into another world where instead of, full martial arts, they fight with, they fight with their souls. So basically they have these special souls. It could be a tool spirit where it's just a junk spirit, so it's not as useful for combat, and then there's animal spirits and stuff. So the world basically revolves around these spirits that people have when they're born. And usually they're hereditary too, so whatever their parents were, they'll have it. But it's about his adventure and reincarnation into that world.
Interesting.
Awesome.
Tia, let me ask you, what kind of What? Sorry, my apologies, Chris.
Oh, you're fine.
All right. See, T. I was actually really interested in hearing from you what your favorite genres were. Yeah, maybe your favorite genre, whatever you put the most time into, whatever you've watched the most of or prefer to watch. As far as anime goes, that's sort of my specialty. I'm not too familiar with manga in general, so I'd love to hear about that.
Well, I'm more into the sci-fi fantasy genre. Like, I've watched things like Galaxy Express, of course, ReZero.
Sure.
What else? Dot Hack.
Sure.
So I really like that one, but
Classics.
yep, classics. And even though people say that it's like SAO or SAO copied it, I feel like they're both unique in their own way. So
They both have a lot to offer.
Yeah.
I would certainly agree with that. They have high points and redeeming qualities, both of them, quite a few. And I'd absolutely say Dot Hack is a classic. It's got to be, considering the reception it's had, the profitability it's shown to have, even in the modern day, even in the current era, even in Japan right now.
Definitely. All right. Well, that's interesting. Awesome. Thank you for telling us some stuff about you. Alrighty. As you guys have known over the last week, we had just started doing this last week. Most of you have caught on to it. Most of you guys have seen. We, as part of the AnimeLegend organization, have started our very own ranking chart, which I don't know if you guys have been familiar with big companies like Anime Trending, but we are also doing our own thing to compete with them, where we take the current running anime and we rank them, and we put them in order of quality and what deserves to be in ranked. So we started that last week. We did it a little later than we wanted to. We'll be doing that every Tuesday morning Eastern time to Monday night. It depends on how long our debates go, but every Monday night.
Yeah, about 12-hour
we'll be live. Every Monday night, we'll be live streaming into the group our debate and topic discussion, and you guys can join in whenever you guys want to. We'll take any advice, any discussions, whether you feel you disagree or agree with our rankings, our discussion topics, and we will take as long as we need to properly put everything in the order that it needs to be. It's something that we want you guys to be part of as much as possible, so we can get you guys involved. So this week we had just done it last night. We took about 3 hours. Some of us here were in there, and a couple others.
Yep.
It took about 3 hours to rank the top 10 this week. It was quite the debate, quite the discussion.
Yes, it was.
Maybe a little too long.
Maybe a little.
But we got it done. Anybody who's listening right now, we had our top 10. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be talking about them in a little order. We're going to discuss maybe 2 minutes on each one and discussing what made them and why they deserve that spot this week and so on. We'll start from the bottom. And we'll do a little topic while everybody speak about it if you watched it or not, or I'll just go through it depending on who's watched it here or not. So starting with number 10 this week, we had Tales of Systeria the X. Last week, it was actually at number 6. It dropped down 4 spots to the number 10 spot. This week, I don't know if anybody's seen this week's episode. Remember, this next section here, guys, if you're listening, there will be kind of spoilers, so if you haven't watched the episode, you probably should tune out for the next maybe 20 minutes until we pass this. The last episode had to deal with, if anybody's familiar with the upcoming game, Tales of Berseria. That's a new Tales game that's releasing in less than 2 weeks, August 18th, I believe. Am I right about that, Folly?
Yes, in Japan.
Yeah, August 18th in Japan.
So I'm getting it.
And what this episode did was give a little bit of exposition on the beginning of the game, sort of, and back because they're in the same universe. So it told the story of those main characters, which are Velvet. Help me out here. What are the other characters' names?
Velvet. Saris.
Velvet's friends.
Velvet, Saris, and I forgot the dude's name. I just remember their female's name.
Yeah. So it just basically told you their beginning story. We're not really too sure what's going on for first-time watchers. If you're a Tales of Systeria fan, you kind of know where this ties in, but we won't go into that because that's spoiling too much. So it's basically just a beginning episode, and it was really nice to see the new characters, and the animation was nice, as always, because it's ufotable, and it was just very decent. So that's why it has our top 10 spot right now.
Well, our determination was sort of that's all it did, was establish this predetermined starting point for the game as kind of a marketing device, which is fine, and it was a great episode, and compared to a lot of what we got this past week, certainly deserving of a 10 spot, I would say, but didn't really advance the internal plot or the narrative structure of the Tales of Systeria plot that we were already involved in to that point. So we docketed some points for that, quite a few, in fact, enough that it dropped in our esteem all the way down to the spot that it now occupies.
Definitely. Especially for players like me and Isaiah. I know Isaiah's played a majority of the Tales games. I'm correct in saying that, right?
Yeah, I played all of them. I even went to go find fan translations of ones that weren't localized.
Tales of the World, Tales of Destiny. Yeah, I know. Tales of Innocence. Yeah,
dedication.
The lost ones that were never translated. But yeah, that's our 10 spot. So anybody who's interested in playing the new game, check it out. It's really interesting. These next 2 episodes have to deal with the show, but you don't have to actually watch them. At our number 9 spot, it wasn't on our list before, but this week it's kicked up and it's starting a new arc, and it's giving us some pretty decent insight on the story so far, and that's The Gray Man Hollow. That's a new spot this week at our number 9. Andrew, I would like you to give us a little synopsis on what happened in this episode.
Basically, what happens in this episode, it starts the train going. We're transitioning to one of the most important and best arcs on the manga, called the Kanda's Past arc. And it kind of starts telling his backstory, or some things that we haven't really known about Kanda. He has always been a mystery throughout the entire show, and always been one of the most interesting characters there. And now we're finally getting a well-needed backstory. And this episode kind of just set the tone for the rest of the arc, which will probably be most of the anime. Most of the remaining anime, if not, maybe it will be 1 or 2 episodes left, but what really made this episode stood out was the characterization Kanda got and how it set up this new arc. So that's why it's at number 9.
Gotcha. Alrighty, yep. And I personally have not been catching up too much with The Gray Man. I watched the first season. I haven't been catching up with Hollow.
Me neither.
I'm 1 episode behind, but everything that Andrew said, because I just skimmed through the episode and everything, is basically true. They're really getting into that, and it's having a darker atmosphere, and that's definitely what this arc is supposed to have, because it literally is like one of the best written arcs in The Gray Man, and it leads into one of the biggest freaking plot twists, and so it's going to be big.
Hey Tia, have you seen The Gray Man Hollow? Are you caught up?
No, I haven't. Not yet.
Yeah, she is currently catching up with a couple shows. As she has mentioned earlier when we were talking pre-show about she watches a lot of stuff, but this season she's only watched a couple so far. So
sure.
she'll chime in, I think, on the shows that she has watched and started. Hopefully.
Yeah. Sounds good.
At our number 8 spot, last week it was at our number 10 spot. It's jumped up 2 spots. And that's Alderamin on the Sky. This show is a little bit different than most of the shows this season in terms of how it feels. It's kind of different. We talked about it last week a little bit. This week gave us a very good insight backstory to 2 of the main characters' past, and gave us knowledge on who they are, how they met. Yeah, definitely. Who they are, how they met, why they are the way they are, what their bonds and friendships were formed on, things like that. What'd you say, Sinclair?
I said it's lots of establishing context that I thought was really effective, and certainly enough to bump this episode up. It also puts a lot of what we've seen before this episode into perspective as well. That I would say that it certainly deserves to jump 2 spots, which is what it did.
I didn't really get this episode that much. When you mean establishing context, what do you mean?
Well, remember last episode we had the almost a coup that we had between the princess and the guards, and what that is going to set up for the trading country the country that's trading on them, the inside people. So it's going to turn into a type of war, and the 2 main characters are going to be basically captains. So what this episode established between Solrock and what's her name, the redheaded chick, the other main character, it established who they are, how they became to be where they are in terms of their rank, how they have a very impeccable teamwork, how they met, why. It just had a very interesting background story to them. It made the characters fuller, gave them good characterization, and it really did mark who they were as people. And
Absolutely.
Before that, we were very bland, I believe, and we didn't really understand what their relationship was. They acted on impulse. We didn't understand what the relationship was. So that episode really did give us some insight on that.
Didn't give the depths. We didn't have the depths of their character fully understood to the degree that we now do. Like, it sheds a lot of light on their previous interactions that were a little bit clouded before, with as little spoilers as possible. That's basically what I meant when I said character establishment, and that is what character establishment means in general, shining some light on character interactions that otherwise didn't.
Chris Lamar spitting facts.
All right, and at number 7, it dropped down 2 spots. And when we say things dropped down, we don't mean that they got worse. Remember, when we're talking about each anime, we're talking about objectively how things were quality, how good they were. So when we say down, that means something else. If it's still in the top 10 list, that means something else was just that much better. So
Right.
in honesty, was better than last week's, I believe. I know most of us agreed last night. 91 Days was better. This week, Andrew, if you want to explain kind of what happened.
Well, see, the thing about this is what I have picked up on is everything is important. Even, for example, even if like you somehow skip and like how do I put this? Like, every little fact is important. For example, just knowing Nero's last name is completely important, because it's something that will deviate you from the story, considering it's a mafia type setting. It's pretty big knowing like an organization's name. But I won't go into spoilers. But what this episode did is set the tone for future interactions with Nero's enemies. For example, we found out that Nero kind of got set up by his own parents, and that puts him in a sticky situation. He doesn't really have. They kind of left him for dead. He doesn't know what to do. His friend's dying, so on and so forth. Not just that, but we see Avilio or Angelo's internal struggle, or we see him kind of moving past these obstacles just so he can catch the killers. And we see him in kind of awkward situations and spots with Nero, when Nero mentions Avilio's family, which is very ironic. And the tone of the entire episode is really eerie, kind of, I want to say,
It's ominous. It's ominous, and there's this sense that nobody can trust each other, and there's a lot of subtle manipulations going on, and there's a lot of subversive characters, and it lends itself to a good atmosphere. There's good pacing. We had a couple of disagreements about 91 Days, I think, in the rankings, but I do feel that we overall came to a good determination about where it fits on the list.
What do you mean people can't trust each other?
No one can trust each other. We have characters that are saying, "Oh, you can trust him, but not him." And I'm avoiding using character names here as much as I can. Again, we're trying to avoid spoilers. We're not trying to give summaries. But no, yeah, sure. So I don't want to talk for too long. Go ahead, Chris.
Alrighty. Like we said before, so 91 Days was decent this week. Andrew just said, a little bit of plot, what happened in the story. Like we said, it's definitely bringing to I wouldn't say a climax yet, but something's definitely happening. We're excited to see what's coming up next week.
How Nero has to go to the person who killed his brother to save his friend. Pretty sticky situation.
Very. And so this week, probably a little more controversial than not. Very sticky on how, again, using the word sticky, where this show should be on the list, and that's at number 6.
Yeah.
From last week, it was at number 3 or number 4. It dropped down 3 spots from number 6. So it was at number 3 last week, and that's Ray Zero. This episode, for the first time, if people have been catching up with it, have it's finally giving us some insight on who Subaru is and making him take actions on previous episode, his conviction that he had last episode. Last episode, we had a lot of characterization and character conviction in terms of what he's going to become and what he's going to do. And finally, for the first time, we see Subaru act upon these emotions and make, from our standpoint, maybe the right decision. And we get to see his diplomatic skills, the way he can actually be intelligent and make bonds and form relationships that he really couldn't do before under the pressure that he was in.
Right.
The second half of the episode, we had him finally admitting or telling the negotiation was to let them know where the whale was so they can kill it, and that way they can form an alliance with Amelia, so hopefully they can come and save her.
Yeah.
This episode really just showed a lot of... I mean, we discussed it forever last night. It showed a lot of
His
character
determination.
development.
There's world building. There was a lot of world building too, and it wasn't just character development. I mean, the characterization from last episode was fulfilled so well in this episode. Like, you really get to see the payoff that the setup from last episode was building up anticipation for in the audience, and the world building, just the side characters and everything that's going on around Subaru as he's developing and progressing forward as a character in a sense that will actually stick for the, or ideally will actually stick for the audience, and as well as for the characters that he's interacting with, the side characters, everyone involved with the overarching narrative, and this whole thing, the whole while is being manipulated by this sort of unseen, ominous, insidious force, this villainous force. So it really effective episode, and I liked it quite a lot, and I think we all did, and we're all glad that it's on the list.
Yeah, it was a great episode. So
I know Tia's been caught up with this show. Not that I want to stay too long on Ray Zero, but Tia, I mean, you've been watching Ray Zero so far.
Sorry about that. I've been fully caught up with it, and I really like this episode because it also gives you a little backstory on some of the other characters, like Wilhelm, like how his connection with the whale and stuff. So I think it was a pretty good episode on character development and background story.
Have you been a Subaru fan, or have you been one of those ones who hate?
Well, I never really disliked Subaru. I mean, like, I can understand like why he's acting a certain way. Like, people may say he's useless, but he's actually doing the best he can, and a regular person doing the same things he was doing, like, they would probably do like worse, if not like.
Quite right, Tia. Quite right.
And that's always been the debate with that. And just know where you stand there. And, this last episode, do you feel that the actions that he made were, let's say, that they were positive, or would you say that he is acting out of character?
I say it would be more positive. He definitely gained a lot of confidence from the previous episodes. I mean, he kind of did get a beat down for the last few. Yeah, and it just showed his determination towards Amelia and how he wants to change her future.
Quite right, Tia. Oh, here.
Alrighty. So that's good. It's just always good to see. I mean, this has always been a debate in the community everywhere,
yes, it has,
is whether he's a crap character or not. And I mean, as much as people can hate on him, you can hate the decisions that he makes, but you can't hate the characterization of this character. And that's the fact.
It's intentional, and it's
I know
Andrew hates
Andrew hates Subaru, and that's understandable. He can hate him, but he's admitted to me on multiple occasions that the character is not bad. The character, not him, his decisions, I guess.
Objectively speaking, of course, we all try to be as objective as possible, but we should move on. Go ahead, move us on, Chris.
Jumping up 2 spots from number 7. This week at number 5, we have JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 4: Diamond is Unbreakable. We have a couple things. One of the arcs ending this week. Andrew, you want to tell us what happened?
Yeah, I don't really want to go too much into this because anime onlys are going to find out that it ties a little bit up to episode 16, but I don't want to spoil the entire thing. Basically,
We've been trying to avoid spoilers. Go ahead.
Whatever. Basically, we get the end of the Shigechi's Harvest arc, and we get the characterization from all three characters. But the most important thing, and the most kind of, I guess, fun thing to look at is how Josuke and Okuyasu kind of change personalities as soon as they're double crossed by Shigechi, and they kind of chase him around town, typical JoJo style with cool ass soundtrack and animation to show up for it. We see a lot of symbolism going on in the background as we see the landmarks in Morio, and they all kind of tie up to the story itself. After a very unique stand battle, they catch up to Shigechi, which they beat him in a very unique way, and they kind of get him to be like, oh yeah, I was fucking greedy, and so on and so forth. Afterwards, they go on their way, and then right before the show ends, it ties up full circle with the ending, with the foreshadowing and the appearance
at the beginning.
Character.
Ties full circle with the beginning, right?
Yeah. So that's why I guess we put it as number 6, as number 5. It's a very tough decision between number 6 and number 5, considering a lot of the aspects were not tied, or I personally thought both episodes up to par. So very tough decision.
Yeah, I didn't make too big of a fuss about it, although I disagreed with this one. So.
Alrighty. At number 4, this was a tough decision as well. Our top 4, it was really hard. They were all very equal in quality and just epicness in terms. Maybe the bottom 3, 2, 3, and 4. Number 1 is pretty much undisputed this week.
Yeah, this week was all. This week we were in agreement.
At number 4, we had Arslan Senki, the second season, the last episode. Isaiah, are you caught up with Arslan Senki?
I told you I didn't watch that.
Okay. I couldn't remember what you have watched and what you have.
Yeah, I read the manga though, but I still don't know where to. You can't even spoil, so I don't know where the anime is at right now.
It does not caught
so
up
this
to the anime.
This week it was a very interesting episode. We had a lot of plot twists and route twists. This week it focused on mostly Toilette and her role in the story. She is. I don't want to be too vague, but I'm going to be vague with this. First of all, number 1, because I can't remember names. Second of all, because I don't want to spoil everybody anyway. So we have Toilette coming in and trying to save who she believes is being held hostage, which is the king of where, Andrew?
Excuse me, well, I kind of zoned out. Where
King
is
of what? What's his?
The person, the big guy, who Etchwillet tried to save, the king of.
That's the king of Lusitania, and
the king of Lusitania. So she believes the king of Lusitania is being held hostage. She goes and tries to save him. Goes up to the king's brother and lets him know that the king's being held hostage somewhere. He tells her that, hey, you can go save him, bring him up to the top floor. And we have the princess of where again? She was the princess. The princess who's on the top tower.
This is of a neighboring country. Lusitania took over.
Yeah. So the princess that we have,
state of Lusitania. Sure.
We got some insight on her a couple episodes. It was Hilmes' love interest, and she has very hard feelings towards the king of Lusitania because they had invaded her country beforehand, and goes up there and tries to save him, but the princess tries to assassinate, fails, but that's regardless. And we have a very turn of events where they are being Etchwillet and the princess are being charged with treason, and we have a very dedicated Hilmes come and rescue the princess, which is a very big plot twist because now his plans and his ties to Lusitania are now cut off.
Strong plot device, yeah. Strong plot device. Trying to be vague as possible, not give away too many spoilers. But as always, a really grand narrative structure to this one, fulfilled excellently in this episode. I think, in my opinion, really well done. Good at communicating with the audience. Good at ramping up the internal story pressure. kind of syncing up the internal story pressures of various different character arcs. I thought Princess works well as a love interest, given that how outside that subplot originally appeared, or at least how sort of tertiary that sort of subplot originally appeared, was more effective than I thought. And so, yeah, definitely deserves its spot on the list as well.
Definitely. At number 3, it jumped up 6 spots from last week. This episode extended from last episode where Soma's having his first major battle with the Profiler. I mean, we discussed it last night. Very epic. Whenever Soma's battling anybody, it's always an epic scene, epic fight. They turn this into, harem. I mean, sexy, shonen battle, food, porn, whatever. But
glorified,
it was very
gratuitous food porn.
Very interesting episode. We have Soma, of course, battle against the twisted Profiler who's able to copy all of his food styles, and how he comes on top of that is what happens in the episode. So it was a very good episode, almost a climax of his arc a little bit, and we'll get more of his battles later as the tournament progresses. At number 2, we have Orange. I know Tia has been caught with Orange. Well, how'd you feel about the last episode?
Well, I really liked it. It showed a lot of development with the character and how, what's his name? Kakaru, like his past and his troubles and stuff. And if you notice, towards the end of the episode, Naho might have not been the only one to have gotten a letter from her future self. So that's kind of really interesting. Like, it makes you wonder what he wrote. Like, I forget the character's name.
Sala.
Yeah, Sala. But it makes you really wonder what he wrote to himself. Like, of what he should do.
Do you think he wrote to himself, or do you think that future Naho wrote to both of them?
Him.
And were they the same letter, or were they written specifically to each individual?
Yeah, that's the implication. That's the insinuation. It's really interesting. Yeah, what do you think? What do you think?
Well, it's kind of hard to say because you never know if another character wrote to themselves or not. But if Naho wrote to him, then I would say it's more geared towards him. But I feel like that would be kind of like a selfish thing to do, because then that means she knew, her future self knew how he felt in the past, right? And basically it'll probably tell him to do certain things, which would probably, I'd say like hurt him.
Yeah, like, I'd imagine so.
Yeah,
especially
not go
since,
right.
Yeah.
Especially since Naho would be telling him, "Hey, I know you love her, but you can't have her. You have to save Kakaru," and that would be pretty selfish, I'd imagine.
It would be pretty good as a plot device. It would be a pretty good plot device. I imagine that if they worked that in and executed it properly, that could be a pretty powerful reveal. It could be a pretty powerful, narrative structure device that carries a lot of weight with it, so on and so forth. The execution would be really important, of course. But yeah, really interesting thing to think about. Built a lot of anticipation, good tension, stuff like that. Characterization, obviously, as Tia mentioned. Fantastic anime. It's been so good. I mean, the whole season long, it's been so good.
If there's one thing that this anime still makes me question, because that, it was at, just in this episode and at this point in the manga, because since I did read the manga, I still question how does that time travel element really work, inside the series, because with, letters
and right.
That's been my only... Yeah, they never explored it in the manga either, so people really can't hope for that. I just don't know. I still don't get how
they kind of did. They kind of did.
Yeah, they kind of did, but I just still don't get it. It still confuses me to some extent.
How about this? Remember the teacher who was explaining their own version of multiverse theory about maybe 4
hyper time theory, right? Yeah, it's basically hyper time.
Multiverse. And it was explaining how there were 2 ways to go about it, and his beliefs were the second way. So the first would be that that they can send things, if they can travel in the future, or in the past, if they can travel into the past, then they would affect their past and things would change. But he believed that if he sent something into the past, that it would create multiple universes and it would not affect
Nothing
the
would
future that
change.
you were currently. And it's kind of like Steins Gate. That's basically how
It
Steins
is that.
Gate is the
Yeah.
same with the universe theory.
Exactly.
Which would once you send something in the past, you really couldn't change your own present.
Yeah, just creates
but
a new
you could
world line.
change it. You can change the present of something else.
Right.
So it's
that's
interesting. They
perfect
did explain
theory.
a little bit. So that's how I'm pretty sure they're taking it. So the future Naho sending something in the past isn't really affecting her future, but it's more so for her own regrets, so she can know that she at least tried to help somebody or herself at some
A
point.
different Naho,
So-
right? Yeah, the Naho of the inevitable future that is created as a result of her sending the letter in the first place.
We don't know if it. We don't.
What did you say?
We don't know if it can be changed or not yet.
Well, that's as close as we can get
Oh,
to
we
establishing
kinda do.
context for this.
We kind of do. I mean, with the flashbacks that we're getting, the flash forwards that we're getting in the show,
Sure.
which is showing her, it's showing the future Naho reading these letters, but nothing's changed. So you can only imagine that since
Right.
they're showing us reading these letters
But
and
don't
showing him reading the suicide letter, just pointing out the fact that nothing changed and she already wrote these letters. So if they were ever in the same time area, it's really confusing. There's really no way to go into this without mind freaking everybody who's watching.
Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty much.
When I think about
Still
the
good execution. Could save it.
I think
What's
like
Andrew?
when I think about this episode, I think like when they do these like really convenient fast forwards, maybe it's like while she's writing them and like I don't know how to explain this, but like the time frames are different. Like this is like it's before Naho gets the letters. I'd like to think at least. I mean, I know what happens, but still.
So
Yeah,
Andrew,
you
you
can
want to
see-
believe that
letters are
it does
before she
change,
writes them.
that it changes the future.
I want to believe that Naho and Kakeru and Sawa's actions can eventually lead to saving Kakeru and changing everybody's future.
Interesting. Well, that is the other.
I think-
That's the alternative. I mean,
There's not.
Okay,
like-
I mean that's definitely an interesting theory. I don't think that way.
it's one of the
but that's
two. I
definitely
also
interesting.
kind of tend towards Chris's theory, but it's one of the two, and it's an interesting thing. It's building anticipation and having us, it's making the audience ask questions. That's all good stuff.
Yeah, I think I don't know. Either these flash forwards are definitely plot. I wouldn't say a plot hole.
Devices.
If it's Andrew's theory, it's definitely a plot hole. Those flash forwards past Kakeru when they receive the suicide letter, if that's the case, if she wrote those afterwards or before that, then it's a plot. It's definitely a plot hole.
It's an
like,
inconsistency,
weird.
at least. Yeah.
I'm like, I know, I already know what happens, and everything's kind of explained. But I'm talking about my personal feelings towards this entire subject. As I said,
Sure.
I would like to think keyword, but I'll kind of just
All right.
leave it that there.
Yeah. No spoilers. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
That's. I mean, it's not really even a spoiler. It's kind of like an open-ended thing. So
Right, sure.
build your own theories about it. The show really isn't. That's not the focus of the show. The time travel aspect. Everything else is. At our number one spot, it pretty much unanimously. This was the number one, jumping up 3 spots from the number 4 spot last week, and that's Mob Psycho 100.
Woohoo!
Anybody paying attention to
Yeah.
Mob Psycho, this show, we've discussed it both podcasts. The show is a very unique, very original, very satisfying in terms of it almost brings out a whole new genre and aspect of art. And it's just amazing. In this episode, we get a lot. We get a lot of development with Mob's character. We get an epic fight scene. We get an epic animation scene. It's just
Very
it's pretty
emotional.
much
They introduced a character as well.
Very emotional.
What'd you say?
They introduced a new character as well.
Who did they introduce?
They introduced the question mark.
I guess.
whoever-
Wait,
Yes, at
Does
first
that-
I've never read the manga, so
is that a
when
new
I saw
character?
that, I was like, "Is that his alter ego,
That's what
or
I
was
thought.
that actually another character?"
Yeah, I thought that was
so I-
okay.
I guess the ending kind of gave it away when his brother was saying that wasn't him. That was that Yeah, I guess that makes sense now. That's
I mean,
interesting.
I personally think this is at least the top five, one of the top five, maybe top three episodes of the entire season. As far as
I agree.
emotional impact, as far as development, as far as literally they bumped up the art style, the animation, the fight scene was really fluid. The aftermath, you can see Kageyama actually regretting his actions for not being able to keep his emotions in check. And we have always wondered, why is he emotionless, or why can't he show his emotions? And finally in this episode we see, after he talks to his brother, we see in the flashback, we see how everything is actually playing out, and it's a very promising future for the show, especially since it's following the manga. I'm not sure what chapter they're going to adapt it to, but so far they're on a chapter 17 and 5 episodes, so we'll see what happens.
Well, all right. So personally, you know, I review anime as a job. That's what I do, and I am very capable of being objective. And objectively, I agree. It's a fantastic episode, incredibly well done, really good execution, very emotional, really excellent atmosphere, really excellent animation, all the things that we've already said. Personally, you know, as my own personal bias tastes, you know, if I wasn't working or if I wasn't presenting this as an objective review for publication, I don't actually like Mob Psycho that much.
Why?
But certainly, it just doesn't appeal to me. It's just not the kind of anime that I like. And you know, that's a bias. And like I said, when I'm being objective, and if I kind of enter critic mode and treat it like I'm gonna assess this as if it was, you know, for my job, for my money, for livelihood, to pay the bills, like I do, you know, every other week, then, you know, I've never done a review of Mob Psycho, of course, but if I were, I would assess it objectively. And like you said, certainly one of the most effective episodes of this season. Maybe, I mean, top 5 is that's high praise, and probably is somewhere there. Objectively speaking, and it's just personally that I don't like it. That I don't like Mob Psycho as a series that much.
But do you think there's any shortcomings in this episode? Or, like, is there anything in particular you didn't
I
like?
don't think it's a perfect. I could never give it a perfect 10. We never do. I mean, in professional reviewing, it's very, very unusual to see a perfect 10. I mean, that's implying that there's no aspect of the show that bears improvement in any meaningful capacity whatsoever, and I can't agree with that. But, I mean, it's not the case that it wasn't fantastically executed in basically every capacity. So, yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I agree that it's fantastic and probably in the top 10 objectively. Top 5 even objectively. Towards the 5th, but objectively, sure.
I really loved the episode myself because, you know, just like Andrew, I read the manga, the Mob Psycho 100, and, you know, I personally don't know where they're gonna go up to because, honestly, the chapters are pretty much, well, short. I mean, I would like to say that it's because of one's art style, and he doesn't really put that much dialogue in a lot of it, but I'd say definitely around, like, after chapter 40, they really start to, you know, bring a lot more character development to Kageyama. Like, you know, he's a very interesting character, and it doesn't like, honestly, later on the series is gonna lose its comedic charm to me, and I feel like with this anime, I really haven't laughed that much. Like, people, like, yeah, it's definitely a comedy, but I don't really feel like it's always fixated on that. And I've always felt like because of how Bones goes about directing it, while they have the art style perfectly nailed, they have consistent hand-drawn animation with it, and it's just really stepped up its game. But it just feels like from this episode onward, I'm going to be taking it seriously, and that's exactly how I want to take Mob Psycho, because that's how I take the manga. I take it differently than most people, so this episode really just, like, you know, blew me away, and it's honestly my favorite episode this week that I'm caught up to, because that was just too good. Yeah. Like,
probably,
you know,
definitely the best episode this week.
Gosh, like, just everything that happened in the episode alone was just fantastic, and, you know, it was just overall, like, better. I just got a better feeling from this, and I like that impact, and, you know, people don't have to like the show or anything. Like, there are many people who don't like the show, kind of like Sinclair here, but, you know, honestly, they still have to admit that there are some great elements elements present
Yep.
in this episode. So
Absolutely, Folly.
Yeah.
You're so right.
Definitely. Yeah, and I completely agree. This episode was pretty. I mean, I'm gonna say in the beginning of the show, when the first show started airing, I wasn't a huge fan of
Right?
the first episode or two. Didn't really give a lot
Same.
in terms of what was going on. Probably just the first episode, I would say. It showed a really unique design, unique everything, but I wasn't too appealing. But as I watch episode and episode, and I really understand how deep we are diving into Mob's character and his conflictions with not only people around him, but himself, and whether
His own
he should use his
psychology.
powers or not, whether
Right.
he should use his powers or not, whether he should what group and social class he should be in school, and and then this last episode really just explodes all of that into what he wants to do and how he wants to use his powers and whether what he's doing is right or wrong. And I just love that.
Just
It's
a
an amazing
volcanic,
episode.
yeah, volcanic outpouring of emotional, just an eruption of emotional intensity that it really is so effective at reaching the audience. And that's just like Folly said, even I am so forced to admit that it was fantastically done, fantastically executed, and really effective.
Definitely. All right, well, that is our top 10. So every week we will be doing our top 10. Next week we'll try to keep it a little shorter. We did go a little more than we want to talk about. But we do this every week, every Monday night, every Monday evening around 8 o'clock Eastern Time. We will be live streaming our debate. Anybody is welcome to join the actual talking debate, but there will be prerequisites for joining the call, and that's at least having 10 episodes from the past week watched up to currently, and hopefully a couple more in case there's other ones that need to jump into the top 10 list. But we will be live streaming into the group, so anybody who wants to just chime in and talk about it and determine whether our list was right or not, the discussion could take up to 3 hours. It could take an hour. It depends on how difficult it is to rank that week.
If you have feedback,
we judge objectively. We judge. We take everything into consideration, so it's not just us being biased. Sentry, he's probably in the chat right now. He was with us last night and really got to see, because he was somebody who last week when we first got on the first chart, whether we were truly taking this objectively, and he experienced firsthand just how serious we were and how there was no bias included. Because if we were biased, Razor would be number 1 and JoJo would be number 2 every week because we have me and Andrew in here. So, but we're not. But on to our next topic. Now we're going to get a little bit more insightful into each of us as individuals. We have Tia here who's joining us, and we're going to get into a little bit of, we'll start with Tia first, and just what have you read lately or watched lately, or even in the past that you would really recommend to somebody, and why?
Well, I would recommend people watching Galaxy Express, just because it may not be for people who don't like long anime or older anime, but I really suggest it. There's a lot of character development, and basically what it's about is it's about this boy named Tetsuro who wants to get a machine body so that he can be practically immortal and have the freedom that people with machine bodies have. But he then meets Maytel, who then takes him on the train to all the planets, all the stops, and every time, each episode, they go on to like a new planet, and it changes his perspective of what machine bodies are and why, if he should get it. So I really recommend watching this anime. So even if it's not even if it's not your cup of tea, I suggest you guys should give it a try, and you might like it.
When did this show come out?
What was it, like the 1980s, right?
I would have to search that up. I actually don't
Word?
remember.
Oh,
I'm pretty sure it came out in 1980s.
Oh, that's quite an old one. You said how many episodes did it have? Over 100?
Yeah, over 100.
Okay, wow. So that's that's a commitment for people who aren't. I mean, I know people have a hard time watching Legends of Galactic Heroes because it's so old and it's so long.
quite sure.
But I'm
quite
definitely
sure.
gonna check it out. It
Oh
sounds
yeah, here we
interesting.
go.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, certainly worth-
1978.
Yep.
Sounds interesting.
78. Jeez.
Oh my goodness.
But
Wow.
Alrighty.
it's a
That's-
journey. So
That's
Did you watch
something.
it, Isaiah?
Yeah, I've seen it. I just don't remember much from it because it's been years.
Yeah.
Like if I think about like okay, so I guess we could get into an anime that I'd recommend then too. Like right here, I guess, because
Yeah,
I've
of course.
okay. But just like how when I watched Galaxy Express, there were several other series that I had watched at the same time, and that would have to be SDF Macross, and I also watched Legend of the Galactic Heroes. So this was years back, but it was definitely when when I was able to access all three of them clearly. But I marathoned all of them, and out of them all, what became my top favorites would have been Legend of the Galactic Heroes and SDF Macross. And so I guess the one anime I recommend the most is SDF Macross. It's basically it's a space opera, you know, kind of like majority of what like Gundam is. But while Gundam has a specific like focus, and its focus is mainly, I would like to say it's heavy in political, like like political conflict. And so it's heavy in that, but Macross is heavy in something else entirely. And what it's heavy in is love on the battlefield, and it incorporates a lot of musical elements in it, like basically like war exists because of a difference in ideals, but in SDF Macross, while it does exist because of a difference in ideals, the one thing that keeps them all together, united as a whole, is love and music. They realize they realize their shortcomings, and they try to fix that. And SDF Macross really explores that a lot, and it's just a legendary series to me. I'm pretty sure that the original anime has about, I would say like I think it was 38 episodes. No, it's probably a bit more. But then there's also the movie afterwards, Do You Remember Love? And it was incredible.
Yep.
That has to be my favorite hand-drawn work of all time.
It was quite good.
It was
Did you
remarkable.
watch this thing, Claire?
Yeah, I've seen Macross Delta, and I've seen Do You Remember Love, but I don't have as much establishing context. I haven't seen Macross Frontier, and I haven't seen SDF. Not even sure really if I've even heard of that. Shockingly, but I'm familiar with Macross Delta. A huge fan of that.
Wait, so you love Macross Delta, but you haven't watched Frontier yet? That's the prequel. You gotta watch that.
Yeah, that's the truth. No, that's the truth. I mean, I started Macross Frontier, and I started it barely started it, and I don't know. I'm gonna get so much hate for this. I wasn't that absorbed by Macross Frontier, whereas I absolutely loved Macross Delta. So yep, go ahead.
What I was going to say as a Macross fan is I recently just figured out, because I'm not caught up to Macross Delta yet. I'm just getting into that, but the latest episode of Macross Delta spoils the ending of all the other Macrosses. So please go watch Frontier.
Yeah, Folly. Delta is really good though, right? I mean, you like it a lot, right?
Oh my goodness, I'm only on episode 3, but I love it.
I know, right? It's so good.
All right,
I love
all right. Let's get into let's keep this rolling here. So state that name again. You recommended, so everybody knows.
SDF Macross, Super Dimension Fortress Macross.
Alrighty, Andrew. Let's go with you. What do you recommend? And that you,
I think I'm gonna give a little shout out to 2 series. One is gonna be really brief. I want to say that the first series that I'm currently watching right now, that's pretty immersed in it, and it's really, really good. It's called Tsubasa Reservoir Chronicles, and it's really good. I mean, it's really, really good. I'm so impressed with the OST. Yeah. I think this literally has one of the best music I have ever heard in like just an anime. I think it gives the anime such a unique atmosphere, and depending on the scenes, everything kind of flows really well. The animation is a little bit outdated since from 2005, but it holds that classical Clamp style outlook on the world, and like drawings, and like just the character design, and it's just really good. It's about a boy who is in love with a princess named Sakura, but their fate is sort of intertwined with certain things, and she ends up losing her memories, and it kind of travels through other worlds and dimensions and time. So basically, the two characters and yeah, the three characters basically have to go time skipping through worlds and like dimensions just to actually find her memories, or else Sakura will die. And it's just very good interaction, very good overall story. I really, really like it. It's
Oh,
probably
Andrew,
It's very good.
what
do
Val?
you like Kurogane? Do you like my nigga Kurogane?
Cool as fuck. I think he's like.
Oh, I
I
think
like-
niggas are.
I think Kuropu's fucking awesome. Not even gonna lie. I like how they all like tease him and stuff. Eh? They all. I think it's pretty cool.
Good, good.
Cool. The little fur ball kind of brings like
Oh my.
All right.
comedy.
What's your second recommendation?
My second recommendation will be Kaiji. A lot of people have heard me talk about this. It's a really realistic show. It's about a guy who has nothing. He's kind of a bum and is swindled into debt. So he basically has to gamble to get out of debt. And it's just such a psychological show, and it puts him in situations, and it has a lot of questioning of like human values and morals and how money can kind of corrupt somebody. It's a very mature show. It has 2 seasons. And to be honest, it has probably top 3, one of the most intense moments in anime history that I have seen. The
Wow,
bridge arc.
that's high praise.
Yeah, I mean, it's in my top 10. I think nothing has made my stomach turn than seeing him play a board game or a certain psychological card game. And every time he loses, having fucking fingernails and like his fingers chopped off and his ear they put him under so much stress and so much.
Wow, that's
It's so
wild.
good. Kaiju's definitely one of the better psychological seinen out there.
Wow, that's wild.
Alrighty. Sinclair, give
Yeah,
us one.
sure. All right, I'd like to talk a little bit about. I'd like give a little brief recommendation. I'll give 2, of course, both relatively brief. I hope, don't want to ramble on, but there's one that I'm doing a character analysis of right now for work. That's Tonari no Kaibutsu-kun. Many of you may be familiar with the fact that I do primarily focus on romance in my personal work. That's also what I'm most fond of in anime in general, and it's done really well throughout this series, primarily just because the dialogue is so strong. It's so worked in. It's worked in so authentically, and it's just it has layers of realism to it that you don't see often in these sorts of shows full of cliches, these character dramas that are just all over the place. These much more shallow romances that where progression is wrong, pacing is wrong, atmosphere isn't all that, characterization not all that. And it just does all of those things very well, very refreshingly well, and certainly not a masterpiece, but absolutely worth checking out if you're a fan of romance like me. If you're a fan of anything having to do with realism, and especially if you're a fan of having anything to do with payoff, romantic payoff, check out the manga. Read the manga all the way through. That's all I'll say there. And secondly, as for a manga that I recommend checking out, I'd like to recommend Till Death Do We Part. Also not necessarily a masterpiece, but also very worth checking out if you're into this sort of psychological undercurrents, this sort of deeply philosophical undercurrents that are subtle and intriguing, because the intrigue is a huge part of this story. It's a little bit of cliche, like you have this blind character that's kind of this blind samurai-esque, where his blindness never comes into play, and he's just a super badass and he fights, and he can see bloodlust and savagery and so on, so he's sort of not impeded by his blindness in any real way, where you would like to see that be a bigger part of his character, of course. And there's some kind of cheap plot devices, but overall the characterization is really strong in this as well, as you might be able to tell. Big fan of characterization, and it, also done pretty well here with character profiles of specifically a certain girl character that's just done really well and to be really believable, when she's pushed to this point of helplessness and crying out for help and in despair, and that despair is just colored very realistically and very effectively, and her response of attachment and that affection, that's sort of the subversive affection of to the person that's helping you, is also very well done. So I'd recommend that as well. It's 12 volumes long, to my understanding, 12 quite long volumes, and also worth giving that a check out.
Alrighty. I'm gonna keep this short, just for matter of time management. I have one recommendation, and just because we don't have a lot of time, everybody knows what the recommendation is. Go watch Gintama if you haven't watched it. Gintama is amazing. That's all I have to say. On to our next topic. Now that we got all that out of the way, we're gonna go maybe a question that everybody probably has. And speaking of like a couple of the animes that what we talked about, like let's say Kaiji, which is a middle. When did Kaiji come out? 2001.
Kaiji came out 2006, 2007. No, 2007, 2008.
Okay, all right. So that's middle aged. We had, what'd you say, Tsubasa? Not Tsubasa. You had Galaxy Express.
Yep, Galaxy Express.
So talking about the different range of animes that range from earlier animation, 1978, to newer age animes, which is like we had the season with Ray Zero and all these new shows, Orange, and the debate comes across is anime really losing its quality these days? Is the stuff that was written back then a lot better than now?
I'm gonna have to. All right, keep going. I don't want to cut you off.
Well, and that's basically the question.
Right.
Is stuff better written? Are they have better plots, better characters, or is anime dying out in terms of originality and story progression? And
well, I want to speak last on this. I think this is obviously something that's quite close to my heart as someone that reviews anime every week for two companies. So go ahead. Someone else go ahead.
Okay, you go first.
No, you can go. Fine.
Oh, okay. What I think is older anime, they're like today, a lot of anime, like they just keep producing more and more and more. Like what we have more than 20 anime this season. Well, in the past, it was like a couple, like 5 or 6, right? So I think really it's more about how they produce it. Like they want to give a lot of content to the watchers and just keep on giving the content, while in the past they were more focused on like story, and they're kind of like it's more like quality, because like it was only a couple, like handful of shows that were out. But I would say the newer anime, they kind of use the same like plot devices, and
yeah, it's formulaic.
Like it just depends on like what anime. Like you can't really just take it in as a whole and just say, oh, this is better or this isn't. So
gotcha. Andrew, what did you want to say?
I mean, we're going, if we really want to date back, we're going from 1970 anime, where we see masterpieces like Ashitana Joe. We move forward. 1984, we see stuff like the classic shonens like Fist of the North Star, Saint Seiya. We have good mechas, for example, Mobile Suit Gundam and FDS Macross, which came out between FDS Macross, I think it's 1984. And we see all these shows, and they're purely story-driven with immense amounts of characterization, and they have, like, just they're crude. They're not simple-minded, and they tell a story to a certain degree and actually expand upon it. And as we, like, keep progressing through the decades, what I've noticed, especially in the art styles, they keep getting dumber. Like, we get the 90s where we have really good shows like maybe Gundam Wing. We have Evangelion, which I don't like, but is a undoubtedly very good show. Revolutionary. We have we even have the Berserk anime, which was one of the most decent adaptations the show has ever gotten. And we have Bebop, Trigun, all these stuff, and even in the faces of the characters, you could see the detail and the amount of effort they put into it. But as we keep progressing, we keep having dumbed down shows where it turns to moe dumb shit, and it's just the same stuff. Of course, not all anime is like this, because we do have a good amount of outstanding anime each season, but they have a norm, and they keep just mass producing, as Tia said. They keep mass producing bland and bleak romance, and we have like daily shows like, I don't know, Love Live and for example New Games, stuff that it just kind of focuses on like fan service, like not necessarily hits fan
So
service.
yeah,
But
I think that is the where things are coming now. It's fan service is a huge thing. We're now focusing more on like carnal desires, which is just mindless action, blood, gore, and fan service, which is our native carnal desires, instead of focusing on plot, lore, story, which is what we appreciated years ago. I think that's a
exactly. So it's really
definitely
really good adaptation of stuff. For example, I'm just gonna be the first one to say this. I give David Productions so much credit, so much credit since 2012 for perfectly
JoJo's
adapting,
terrible.
not just like going with it just because it's there and going through the motions, but like
But
perfectly.
JoJo's bad.
Hmm?
But JoJo's bad.
JoJo's not bad.
JoJo is bad. Oh shit.
I'm kidding.
Oh
I'm kidding.
shit.
Hey,
JoJo
Brock,
jokes is good.
I want to hear it from you, but like they put so much detail into like one of the most iconic franchises, and we see studios like this, like Madhouse, and I want to say Affordable, but stuff like that, just kind of expand these big companies are kind of expanding to really quality shows, but the main stuff is just the same. I can't even count how many seasons. I mean, how many shows per season are just the same shit. Just a bunch of girls, cute lollies, just going through day in the life
Moe
with
Lolly
nothing
stuff.
to offer.
It's Moe
Nothing.
culture. I can't talk yet. Folly, your turn, man.
I was hoping it was my turn next. Okay, well, I definitely feel like some classics, like some classic series do hold up today still, and they're definitely relatively better than a lot of what we get today. Like, I mean, Andrew was saying we get a lot of Moe shows, and like honestly, well, like, okay, I want more shows like kind of like SDF Macross. Like, I just really want that. I really want that impact because that's like my favorite. That's like my favorite classic show, SDF Macross. It always will be. But I want more shows like that with like like love in the middle of war. And I know that Gundam probably has some elements like that, like Gundam Seed, for example. But none of them are ever like truly fixated on just that alone. And like they're really story driven. They have a lot of like like narrative. Like it's a very strong narrative, and the atmosphere is always at least consistent. But when it comes down to like do a lot of classics hold up today? I think like some classics, yeah, they do, but then some classics are honestly beaten out by like the newer stuff. Like we get a lot of new stuff, but if I had to think of one, like if I had to think like whether or not, okay, if I had to think about it, but if you compared SDF Macross not to Gundam or anything, because I just feel like they're two different things. If you compared like SDF Macross to Star Driver, which Star Driver was an anime by Studio Bones, and it had a lot of music, it had love in the middle of a battlefield, and it had a lot of those elements. It fell short. It had stellar animation, but it fell short. But if you compared it to another series, sort of like Eureka 7, which I feel like they are definitely similar with like, their exploration to like, like both sides, and like there really wasn't as much conflict with the war as there were among the characters. The characters had the most conflict. The war was only there to like, like kind of to just like show like how they approach it. But Eureka 7 is one that I would say that is similar to Macross, just without like the music, like the musical elements. And so like Eureka 7 came out in about 2005, 2006, but that okay, but that's a show right there that I feel like could beat like any classics, because from Studio Bones, and a lot of people aren't going to agree with this, but I feel like Studio Bones is a studio that makes modern classics. Like
Agreed.
Yeah, they really do know how to go about modern classics. Like, I don't really think that any of their shows are bad. Sure, some are just kind of average. Some are really great. Even, but they really know how to just do modern classics. Like, for instance, I don't know what harem series started it all, but Ouran High School Host Club is a good freaking like modern harem series and how you do it right. Like, unlike compared to like To Love Ru, which is mainly fixated on ecchi, but that's
Oh,
its
yeah.
that's it, but that is To Love Ru's strong suit. But Ouran
Good
High School
stuff.
Host Club is a modern series, and you know like a lot of people think that anime is worse today, but a lot of people don't even watch as much anime. Some people are just like, oh, all this anime is shit, but they've only seen about 200 or 300. And I'm not trying to discriminate against those people, but how many people among those how many people have seen series like Shigofumi, for example? I just want to use that as an example. Shigofumi is basically Letters to the Dead. Basically, when someone dies, they always have these last words that they've probably wanted to give someone, but not in the form of a will. Sometimes they want to keep it secret and, sent to one specific person. Well, in Shigofumi, they basically, when they die, it's like a messenger from like heaven descends, goes to the earth and takes a letter with them, and they're supposed to give it to the person that's dead, the person that that they want the dead person wanted them to give it to, for example.
Right.
And it's just it's really strong, and like it's 13 episodes long. It's really strong. It knows how to hit home with this whole, like, what are their final words to me? And it came out in, like, 2008. And I just wanted to highlight that that's a good show right there, but not many people have seen it. So, yeah. I'll wrap that up. Yeah.
Callie,
What?
I have a question, but...
Oh, okay.
And I completely agree with you that in a lot of seasons, like in every season, there's really, really good shows, outstanding shows, especially like when it comes to, I guess, the 2005 to 2010, I guess, years. But
I would say post 2006 is specifically a golden age.
Okay,
2006 to 2010.
Anyways, Fally, do you think that the few shows that are outstanding outweigh the hundreds or dozens that are mediocre?
And here's the thing on that. Hold on. Before you answer that question, Isaiah, that he just asked you, when you say that there's let's say you're asking, out of all the hundreds of dozens of animes that happen each season, there's only a couple of good ones. And I agree with Andrew, but in a different sense of we are spending all this money in the anime industry on animes that aren't getting anything. We have there's 60 animes airing right now this season, and only 10 of them or 15 or 20 of them really get any kind of recognition or any type of views.
That's so
And then the
true.
rest of the 40 animes are being spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on to produce and millions total, and they're not producing anything worth quality or worth saying wise. And why are we wasting our time, and why are they wasting their time giving us crap when they could be giving us quality work like they used to, instead of just coming together and giving us quality shows?
All right, let me answer the original question. I really felt like it was important.
Hold on.
Okay,
hold on.
go ahead.
I want to hear the question. I want to hear Isaiah answer that.
So, because I'm getting a little mixed up. Just like shorten it real quick. Like, what do you specific? Like, am I answering Andrew's question specific or yours? Like,
no, Andrew's.
Okay, so do I think that, like, the quality shows outweigh, like, the hundreds of ones that we get now?
Yeah, I mean, the ones that we get that are not, like, mediocre, not 7s or 8s. I'm talking about, like, 9s and, like, very, very quality, just quality shows. One of the best of the best, I guess you could say. Do those few shows outweigh the dozens and hundreds of mediocre shows that are out each season?
That is actually a good question, and I would like to say that I feel as if they do. Like, okay, everyone has a different, like, take on, like, each anime season. Like, for instance, what do we have this season? We have okay, this magical boy anime. It's the second season or something. This magical boy anime that's airing this season, and you know, we also have Maso Gakuen, that for example. Okay.
Yeah, we do.
All right. So if like you look when everyone looks at a season, I meet a lot of people who say, "Oh, I'm not looking forward to next season besides one show." And they usually just watch YouTubers and then decide, "Oh, I'm not going to try this show." But they don't ever try to form their own opinion or watch the show themselves and see if they or whether or not they like it. But out of a few shows that we get better quality, like you say Arslan Senki, and I hope Arslan Senki is quality, or like 91 Days or D Greyman Hollow. I feel like the few quality shows that we do get each season really do outweigh the mediocre ones, but sometimes the mediocre ones aren't as bad as people make them out to be. Sometimes they could actually be very genuine, because I think what you should want from a show is you should want it to accomplish what it established from its first episode. Whatever it claims to be, you hold it to that, and you make sure that it stays on that track and doesn't skip over any ends. Like if a magical girl show makes a claim that it's a dark magical girl show and everything, and then suddenly it becomes too lighthearted midway through, is it accomplishing what it established itself as, or no?
No.
Exactly.
Well, all right. So, in my opinion, this is the wrong question to ask. It doesn't need to outweigh the mediocre shows. They can exist together. I am so glad that they exist together, because I love bad anime. I'm so glad all of these bad anime exist. I'm so glad that the industry is flourishing to the degree that all of this really expensive anime can afford to be produced, because it's profitable enough in terms of popularizing the light novels they're adapted from, the manga, the visual novels. The industry is just flourishing, and it's so important to me to see that. Moe is a huge benefit to this industry.
You're saying that you find that these other animes that are flourishing, these adaptations, these what's it called? But then we have pure examples. Let's go with Berserk. We have an example of a manga that exceeds expectations. It's one of the most spectacular mangas ever to be created. It is an ongoing manga for decades now, and we get this is probably one of the most shittiest adaptations we've ever seen in our entire lives. How come we can give these low quality adaptions, or these unknown of adaptions, the type of quality that people think that they want, and not give the masterpieces and stuff that will sell the money? If they're flourishing so much, they're just throwing money away. What are they doing with that?
They are throwing money away. Yeah, they're absolutely throwing money away. But it doesn't change the fact for me that, and this is the thing, I have given out a lot of lower review scores recently than I used to, because there's just more anime, and there is just more moe focused stuff that has no real narrative structure and has nothing original to offer. It's derivative. It's formulaic as can be. I mean, there's so much formulaic anime out there right now. It's absolutely unreal. But the top end is flourishing too. We do get some excellent shows every season, and that's the important thing. They can all coexist. The old masterpieces or whatever, I mean, those are still there. Those still exist, and all the new moe focused stuff that comes out, I watch that stuff. I enjoy that stuff for what it is. When I'm not working, I don't have to give it an objective review score, so I can just watch it, and I'm so fine with doing that.
Would you rather watch? Let me ask you this: you say you don't mind it. You don't mind watching this moe stuff. You don't mind watching this low quality stuff.
Not at all.
Would you rather have things that you would enjoy and think, wow, this is amazing? Would you rather have more of those, or would you rather have more? I think that's the whole point. Is why are we creating?
Have more masterpieces.
So much
of course, I would rather.
Somebody just messaged us. Somebody just messaged us. We have somebody from the outside, Sentry. He's one of our members in AnimeLegend, and he just brought up a good point. I mean, it really is. It comes down to what the Japanese public or community want. and
I can tell you,
Japan,
yeah, I mean,
moe,
this,
ecchi, harem stuff sells
that
in
is,
Japan.
it is profitable. They're appealing to the people that buy the figures. They're appealing to the people that buy the Dakimakura. They're appealing to the people that buy all the merchandise, the obsessive fans. They're appealing to the people that like
Remember,
that stuff.
the question wasn't what we're appealing to. The question is
Irrelevant.
the question was, is the quality of things these days worse or comparative to olden days? And I think the general consensus, consensus is definitely that it has gotten worse. And you've explained it. I mean, you basically, that was the question. And ultimately it comes down to what sells and what people want to spend their money on, and whether that's the generic. It's the same thing with SAO. SAO is probably the most popular anime in the world over the last 5 years.
In Japan, it's certainly One Piece, but still SAO hugely profitable in Japan. Of course, everywhere else is tough.
It's something that it's pop culture, and that's just what people appeal to. Whether that's people consider SAO a good anime or not, it's still what people want. So they're always going to focus on what sells and what makes the money. So regardless of whether quality goes down or not, and I think we can agree that it does.
Yeah.
Definitely.
It's just
not a bad thing.
It is a bad thing.
It's not a bad thing. It's good for the anime industry. It's making money.
It's a bad anime. Each season is 1 to 5.
As long as we're still getting good anime too, I'm not prepared to complain. I think more anime is good.
Look at winter season. Chris, what do you think of winter season? What do you think the ratio of good to mediocre anime was?
It was pretty low. There was not one single high quality show that came out full fledged in the winter season. Not one. Not one. You have good anime like some part of Erased. Grimgar was decent.
Yeah, Erased was pretty good. I mean, okay, Grimgar was good too. But all right, fair enough. But in my opinion, we will continue to get good anime.
I do understand what you're saying though. You are saying like it's what's it called? In order for there to be any type of anime to come out, we have to make money for those.
Exactly.
And if these things are selling to make us anime and flourish the anime industry in the first place, then we can't really complain because that's what's fueling the industry.
That is exactly it, Chris. That's exactly it. And that's what I think it boils down to. I mean, we can be as picky as we want, but I mean, this stuff is out there. I'm watching it. I'm hoping other people are watching it. I'm hoping people are purchasing the merchandise. I'm hoping it continues to be profitable and becomes as profitable as it possibly can be, so that we continue to get this uptick. And the more anime there are, obviously the average quality is going to go down just because there's more, and it's very formulaic and so on. But that is what we need to have happen. The anime industry needs to continue to grow, and if it does, we will continue to get good shows.
I have a question. My question is how many, because since everyone seems to want like good anime each season, and there's no doubt that I want good anime each season too, like some really like amazing ones too, but the thing about it all is how many good anime do you watch until you end up not feeling it anymore? And what I mean by this is that I've seen a lot of anime, and Tia here has seen a lot of anime too, like I've seen 2000 for sure, yeah, I really have, but the thing about it is that sometimes I just get like, I'm just not as interested in anime as much anymore at times, because sometimes we get too many good shows, and it's like, sometimes they just end up feeling like, it just feels like they run right into each other, and I don't have that balance. I feel like I'm always missing something each season when I'm enjoying a season too much. I feel like I'm missing like either a bad series or maybe something with a specific genre, and I feel like I'm missing that. And then sometimes when I'm watching too much good anime, I end up not wanting to watch anime for a bit because I feel like I'm getting bored now, and I feel like I'm comparing it to another season. Or sometimes I watch too much bad anime, and then I fall out of anime, and I need something to really redeem it for me. So, like, how do you guys balance that? Like, even if you don't like bad anime much, is there anything that you do to balance this type of feeling like that?
Well, it's my job, so I have no wiggle room at all. I'm just going to be watching, I'm just going to be continuing to watch, every new episode every week that I can. That's what I do. That's how I pay the bills. That's what I love to do. And I have not yet felt so burned out that I ever really was in the position to think, oh, I got to stop this now. I have to get out of anime. I have felt somewhat burned out.
I don't think
but
that was.
never
I don't
to
think that was
point.
ever the case, though. I mean, each one of us is here because we do love anime. I don't think any of us is really burned out. But I think
Yeah.
a lot of it is we get older and we see what used to be and what is, and who what we still love, what we love to watch before. And yeah, we still watch stuff. Like currently, everybody here watches some kind of current running anime, and it's a matter of just. I don't think it's a matter of what we wanted, what we want as we get older, and what brings to the table, And I feel like, as the question was stated, I think what's being brought to the table is a lot less quality than what used to be.
Valley, I think I'm gonna have to agree with you. I mean, to a certain degree, at least. I feel like this has nothing to do with seasonals, though. I think seasonal anime, even if there's too many bad shows or too many good shows, you can still watch something else. But when it comes to like a really, really, really good show that I watch and I finish and I'm like, wow, this was really great. And I try to watch other things, but that are obviously good, but I'm struck by the last show and I just can't really get into it. What I usually do there, I don't just go and watch a bad series and be like, wow, this is bad, I'm gonna go watch the other one. There's a lot of simple and like good shows. Like they're simple, they're enjoyable, you can just kind of turn your brain off and just enjoy and go through the motion, but they're good. They're good, and they're good for what they are. And I think fluctuating between extremely like plot driven and very character just very good characters in the show
Character
to
focused, yeah.
just like to normal, just like maybe slice of life or something simple as comedy, for example. I don't know, Cromartie High School, which is really funny. I think if you mix up the genres, you can actually see a lot of variety in what you can watch. But I don't.
And I agree with that. That's actually what I do with my list. I make I take 4 anime of like different genres and I feel like I know how I'm gonna feel from this series. So then I watch them in that order that I ordered them, and so that's how I go about it now. But before I didn't really do that, and at one point I did feel burned out of anime. It hasn't happened to me yet again. I'm glad it hasn't, but I at some point watched like so many bad anime in a row, and I was like, fuck me. I didn't know all these anime were going to turn out bad. I forgot which ones they were, but I was like, fuck, why did all of them turn out bad? And I was being really dramatic, and I was just like, fuck, I don't know what to do. I'm in a depression right now, and I don't know what anime to watch is going to bring me back. And then my one friend Yuki was just like, hey, watch Kids on the Slope. And I was like,
Sure.
okay, I'm gonna try that then. I watched Kids on the Slope, and I was like, holy shit, this is taking me back. Like, I love classic, I love like classic music and everything. And it's not classical or anything, but it was like, just classics like jazz and everything. And I was like, oh fuck. And so I watched Kids on the Slope in a few hours. When I finished it, it was that hidden gem that I needed. It just brought me back into anime and made me like really feel like, okay, I can still enjoy this. And so it really ended up helping me a lot, and it just basically brought me back into the mood to watch anime again, which I wasn't really feeling after watching several bad anime. But
Sure.
I get burned out on good anime too. I just need like a balance. I'll watch everything, but I just need my balance. I need to know how many I should be. Yeah.
Glad you didn't get that. Glad you didn't stay burned out. I mean, I have had times where I'm sitting there and I'm reviewing like some just the most ecchi or even hentai. I've done hentai reviews. I'm sitting there with like a pen and a paper trying to talk about the dialogue in a hentai. Like that, you can't do that. Hentai reviews are like the bane of my existence. And I get handed them and I have to do them. And it's like, sometimes I'm sitting there thinking, what have I done with my life that I'm sitting here, trying to look for things to recommend or disparage in a hentai. Like, so I've had moments where I've just felt, what has my life become? But I seem to just, come out of those naturally with time and just get back into, never really burned out fully, just kind of feel like this is absurd or this is outrageous, but in time I come back in, and it all seems to balance out for me naturally with time.
We have some
Okay.
shout outs in the chat, I believe.
Which one?
I'm trying to get to the
All right.
live stream.
Well, as you're doing that, we had another discussion to go into, but we've kind of run out of time. So
discuss
I
it.
mean, basically, the general consensus of this was, as time goes on, the industry is going to do what they need to do to stay afloat, and
Right.
that really is all there is to it. And hopefully, we still get quality shows, which we do. So if you're still watching anime, there's still a reason why it's up and around, and you're still watching stuff. And if you're enjoying it, whether it's one out of 50 shows this season, at least something is keeping you watching it. So
Yep.
I guess just appreciate the small things and know that it's going to be around for a while because it sells.
Yeah, it's not
They
going
do make
anywhere.
money. So that's the consensus with that. So we're getting into our last section of our podcast here, and we will be taking questions and answers from anybody listening in to our group live stream, our page, and our YouTube channel. We'll be glad to take them. Ask us anything, whether you want to know something specific, information, anything. Just shout away. Did you find those shout outs, Andrew?
Oh, I'm looking.
Did you finish those errands?
What?
Did you finish those errands?
Oh man. What?
Okay.
Struggle.
Well.
Struggle?
Alrighty. Anybody listening? We do have a website. I mentioned this in the beginning. If you're still listening, we have a website, AnimeLegend.org. That's ANE. Wow.
You got this, Chris. You got this.
That is AnimeLegend.org. Anime Legend, where we put out content all the time, reviewing anime, current runnings, news updates, all kinds of things. And if you want to give it a check it out, see what's going on, and just we
Chris,
work hard to put content on the site.
We should talk about some of the new stuff. Like, look, we have excellent analysis of Japanese foods and candies that are being produced by a professional chef we have on staff. That stuff is really interesting. There's Sakuga analysis. Chris probably mentioned that before. There's a lot of really interesting stuff.
What we plan on doing is probably, especially bringing in those people in person. I know Sentry himself, which is the guy in charge of the Sakuga analysis that he does. I think we'll probably bring him on next week just to get his insight on things. So we'll probably save that for next time. And whether Andrew Bush wants to come on here and give us his chef analysis, we'd rather him be here than not to talk about his stuff. I think
exactly.
He'd be the person to
Chris, check the
show that.
YouTube stream.
Is there a question?
Somebody just told me to go check the YouTube stream. Asshole. That's what he told me. It's like, read the stream chat. Ask.
All right, remember, guys, this is question and answer. So if you have any questions, ask us, and we'll make sure to answer it.
Can I ask questions for Tia too? Of course, she's the guest this week. She probably has a lot of interesting stuff to tell you too. So
there was a question earlier.
Yeah, I thought so too. I don't remember it. I actually thought there were a couple, but I haven't checked, so
I can't check the stream. Give me a second. There were a few.
I know, I saw them.
Well, how was your day? Yeah.
Right? Exactly.
Exactly.
I am
been
pulling
long.
up the page. All right, we're here. Why can't I look at any of the comments?
How many are there?
100 something.
All right, that's good. We don't have 1,000 spam comments from particular people. That's good. That's nice.
What do you think about the interviews? All right, well, I'm not seeing too much. Nobody's really saying anything. Again, we are asking questions. This will be my last time asking. We are asking questions to everybody watching. If you have anything to say, anything to ask us, we are here to answer questions. In the meantime, again, make sure you check out all our social medias. That's AnimeLegend.org, our YouTube channel by the name of AnimeLegend as well, which we're also streaming to right now.
Someone actually asked a question on the YouTube. He said, "What's your guys' opinions on Last Exile?"
Wow.
Has
All
anyone
right.
has anyone seen that?
I have not.
All right. Okay. Last
Andrew, help.
Hold up.
Help, Andrew.
Hold up.
It's actually a show. It's actually,
I
I actually have not seen that. I'm supposed
Yeah, me
to watch
neither.
it.
I'm
but,
a little familiar with it, but I certainly wouldn't feel comfortable giving like any critical analysis of it. I
don't know. It sounds like. Hold up.
I love the opening. The opening's cool.
the opening's good. That's worth saying. That's fair to say. I mean, what was that? When was that even? When was that aired? Was that like wasn't that early 2000s aired like 2002 or 3?
I thought it was 2004 or 2005.
I thought it was 2003-ish.
No way. I'm looking
Okay.
at the templates. There's no way this is 2000, 2003 animation. I thought I knew it, but no, I don't know what the fuck the Last Exile is.
Wait, hold on.
We are-
It's 2003.
Wait.
It
Yeah,
is
the last.
2003. I knew it. I knew it was 2003.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there was a new series that started in 2011.
Okay, because I kind of remember it. Like it's been so. I don't feel comfortable. I wouldn't want to say anything about like how I felt about it critically, but it was this like space opera sort of. It was like a kind of one of those cyber / future punk, steampunk, dystopian kind, right? Like that's
Here's another question.
like industrial.
Oh.
I see the question that Honey Badger put. He put. I heard Bakido is getting an AMV episode. Was that a lie? If not, when is it coming out? I saw your question about 3 minutes ago, so I've been looking it up because I had no clue. But I did look it up, and I have seen nothing online about any type of official AMV or.
I haven't heard anything about that in Japan either. So
I'm gonna have to say that was probably a rumor because I mean
probably a
you would
hoax.
think-
Yeah.
I just did a couple Google searches and check if it's out anything. So no.
I think I should watch The Last Exile though.
Yeah, we should, right? I know. Tell me about it. Like,
Honey Badger said that Last Exile was good. It had a Hakuto no Ken reference. Came out in 2003.
Yeah, I remember some like themes. I remember like there was like a class war theme, and I feel like that was done well. It's so hard for me to confidently give like a critical analysis of any aspect of it, like characters or anything, because I remember it so faintly, and I never even close to finished it. I think it was like 26 episodes, so I didn't even get like close to halfway through that, and it was so long ago. But yeah, I think there were some pretty interesting themes. I can at least confidently say that because it did have my attention for 13 episodes or a decent amount. And Folly said the intro was really good. That's something.
Well, I mean, yeah, it looks fantastic actually. So.
Alrighty. I think that's pretty much it. We haven't really got much else. Surprised. Other than Andrew, any of you got any opinions on the whole Baki series?
Ooh. Okay, I'm gonna put my opinion. I know who.
Other than Andrew.
No.
Okay.
Oh god.
This is XI. This is XI asking, so you might have had this conversation.
Baki is a 1,000 plus chapter manga, so I don't know if you guys have. I mean, have you guys seen the Baki the Grappler anime?
It's old. I mean, like I know that's really old, isn't it? Like
it's pretty. Yeah, it's pretty old.
It's like 80s. I'm pretty sure that's like 80s.
It's not 80s. The anime's not at all 80s.
Isn't it?
No,
it totally is, isn't it?
No, it's not.
Baki
The
the
manga,
Grappler?
What are your
When
thoughts
is
on
that?
the manga started in '89, but the anime's 2000s.
Oh yeah, well that's what I meant, the manga. But like I don't, I haven't. Yeah, that's what I was talking about. But no, I'm not familiar with it. So
Okay, Andrew.
Well,
That's our
Baki-
homework. Watch The Last Exile. Everybody's saying I'm gonna watch it. It looks really interesting. I've seen some.
it does, doesn't it? The intro does look stunning. I mean, really, really good.
With other stuff, I'll put it aside, but
It has
Okay.
like interesting themes, just really good, interesting class themes, and a pretty. I'm sure for the time it was a more fresh feeling use of the kind of industrial punk stuff. Techno punk or whatever the specific terminology is that describes that, space opera type stuff. So if that's something you're interested in, like I remember I have a distinct feeling that it was carrying my interest quite well throughout the early episodes. I'm not sure if it I can't tell you the reason I stopped watching it because it was so long ago, but yeah.
All right.
um,
All right, Andrew, you have something to say?
oh no, is that the last question?
I mean, that's what it's looking like. We haven't really gotten any consistent questions, which is
Oh,
fine. We went over our limit yet again, but that's fine.
Oh, that looks great.
But
I know.
okay, so we're gonna wrap up a little bit here. With everybody, thank you for watching again. We are glad to have our guest here, Tia, who hasn't said anything in the last couple of minutes, but she's still here and breathing.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for coming on board.
Been a pleasure.
Thank you
Glad to have
for
you.
inviting me into this podcast. It was a really good experience. I actually never done anything like this before. So, yeah.
Well, it was a pleasure. We hope
Awesome.
to have you again.
Alrighty. Anybody who's still watching, make sure to check up all our social medias again. We are streaming to YouTube and the Facebook page of AnimeLegend, both of their names, both of the mediums. And if you haven't joined our Anime and Manga Legends group, we have our own group. That's always fast growing. And that's that. And that's thank you guys again for joining in. We have our podcast again every Tuesday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And we do our other type. We will be doing our other streaming type thing on Monday nights, which is our top 10 rankings discussions. Anybody who wants to join in that, every Monday night we'll be doing that. So just hop on board and give us your input. Again, thank you for everybody joining here. And that's all we have for you today.
Thanks a lot. It's been a
That
pleasure.
sounds good. Sounds
See you
good.
next time. Right?
Later.
Yep.